Hey everyone, welcome back to Unbiased Magic Reviews. I'm glad you're here. I hope that you're having a good week, and I hope that you guys are staying safe. Today I have an exclusive magic review for you. We're going to be taking a look at my top 5 picks for the best card effects of 2019. Now, a lot of you have sent me emails asking for this, and so I'm finally putting it out, mostly because it took me a long time to just go through all of the card material that I've used over this past year, sort through it, and decide what I really think are the best effects. So this is a magic review that you're not going to find on any other review channel on here. If you are new to my channel, what you need to know is that these are the most unbiased magic reviews you're going to find here on YouTube. The main reason is that no one is sending me any of this magic to review. I purchased this stuff myself, I road test it myself, so I can be totally upfront and honest with you whether or not I think you should even think about picking it up. That being said, a lot of you probably have noticed that my channel has evolved quite a bit, and it is continuing to evolve. In fact, I have some new content planned for you guys, a new different type of magic review that's a little bit more analytical. So stay tuned for that. Again, you're probably not going to find any other channel here on YouTube that's going to provide you with that, unless people copy off of my ideas, which I wouldn't be too surprised about that. That being said, I don't plan on charging you guys anything to watch my reviews. I've seen some other review channels are asking you to like join some kind of monthly membership to watch their reviews. I'd be a little skeptical about that. That being said, let's take a look at my top 5 best card effects of 2019. Okay, so what was the inclusion criteria that I used? So the main things that I used was, 1, the effect had to either be published or put out in 2019, and the other main thing that I used was that it had to get a really strong audience reaction. Some of these effects use sleights, some don't use any kind of sleights, some use gaffs, some don't really use any gaffs, but overall, all of these effects can be performed just with a deck of cards. None of these effects are really like a standalone effect that uses a gaff deck. Like, for instance, Richard Sanders' Any Card. It's an excellent effect, but you can only do one effect with that deck. And the one thing I don't like about those kind of effects in general is that you have to carry around a whole deck of cards just to do one effect. So that's not very useful to most of us. So I've tried to steer this review towards effects that they're all done with really just a regular deck of cards. That was the main idea here. As always, I'm going to present you guys with a couple of notable mentions before we get started with the top 5 list. I know a lot of you guys like that, and so I have prepared that for you too. These notable mentions are excellent card effects that I road tested and that I learned over the past year. They all came out this past year. And they are all card effects you should consider taking a look at if you haven't already. For whatever reason, they just didn't make the cut for the top 5. So these aren't in any order particularly, but let's go over these. So the first one of those I have for you guys is by Danny Dartis, and the effect is called Know It All. You probably have heard it or seen it, and this was a standalone effect that was put out. It just uses a regular deck of cards. There's no gimmicks or gaffs, and there's no sleight of hand involved, which is really nice. There is a minimal setup involved. The effect, if you're not familiar with it, basically you have a deck of cards. You have 3 spectators. Each spectator cuts off some of the cards. They hold them up to their chest, and they look at the card they cut to, and then you mentally divine what cards they each cut to. And so it's really a very quick, simple, easy to understand effect, gets huge reactions. I've had a lot of fun with it. Our second notable mention is from Ollie Mealing, and this comes from his Mealing membership. You're going to learn tricks and sleights and those kinds of things. Well, my favorite piece that he put out this past year, it was called One Question. Okay, now this was a real killer effect and gets some big reactions. If you can imagine, you take out a Post-it pad and you tell a spectator that you want them to just think of any card. They think of a card, they write it down on the Post-it pad, and they stick it to your forehead. Okay, now this is they stick it to your forehead, and then what happens is this, is that you ask them one question, and it's totally unrelated to the card that they're merely thinking of. You can ask them whatever question you want, and then you come up with their card. It is totally baffling. The method is ingenious and really clever. No sleight of hand involved. And it almost borders on the line of like mentalism with cards, really. In fact, I'm going to show you guys a very short clip of it that he put out on his YouTube channel just to show you how it looks.
So I'm going to ask you one question, and therefore this question is very important. It has to give me all the necessary details. And the question, Will, is this. Will, tell me, what did you have for breakfast? What did you have for breakfast, Will?
I had a BLT.
BLT, the bacon, lettuce, tomato.
With cucumber, actually.
With ooh, okay, that's a game changer. Right, that's diverted the course of my thoughts there. A BLT, okay, all right, with cucumber. BLTC. This is actually, I recommend just asking people this question anyway. It's always quite interesting. Some of the answers you get are very fancy. Never had this one before. A BLT. Okay, so this gives me a couple of clues. Straight off the bat, I would say that this is a red card, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Yes. I would also go as far to say, because you got the tomato is what gave me the signified the colour red there, right? Also being quite a round, it's a fruit really, isn't it? Not a vegetable. I would say this is a heart, right? Am I right in saying that? That'll be the cucumber, because in fact, it's all come together now. If it's red but not a heart, I've got it. Right? I know exactly. That's all the information I now need to know in order to tell you what card this is. So I think it's between one of two really. So I've boiled it down to two. Again, I won't look at the camera. I'm just going to go through. I think it's either this one. No, similar though. It would be this one, or no, I think it is this one. I think it is this one. Genuinely a bit nervous now. After all this, it'd be a real shame if it didn't work, wouldn't it? Okay, so for the first time, I'm going to have a look, and I don't think there needs to be any clarification on that. Hello again, everyone. So I wasn't able to look at you for a while. This is the 7 of diamonds. Yeah, 7 of diamonds, which therefore means that this needs to be the 7 of diamonds. And Will, I can tell you, it's good news indeed. That BLT with cucumber told me that the card I needed to find for you was exactly the 7 of diamonds. There we go.
Moving along, the next notable mention is from David Regal in his effect called Hamman's Child, which you can find in his book, Interpreting Magic, that he just put out. Now, this is a variation of Brother John Hammon's The Signed Card. If you're not familiar with that effect, you can find it in the Collected Almanac. In fact, it's volume 2, number 14, and that issue was dedicated to Brother John Hamman, and the first effect of it is the signed card. Now, David Regal has streamlined the effect, because in the original effect, you take out a mystery card, you take out the 4 aces, then you have a selection made and signed, and it's placed with the 4 aces, and then the selection disappears from within the 4 aces and it becomes the mystery card. It's really an elegant effect. David Regal's version has eliminated a lot of the moves of the original effect, and in David Regal's version, a mystery card is placed aside, a selection is made and lost back in the deck, you take out 2 queens, and you immediately take those 2 queens and pick up the mystery card with them. And when you turn over the queens, you show that the mystery card that's in between the 2 queens is now their signed selection. So it's a very nice streamlined variation of the signed card. I really liked it a lot. I've gotten really big reactions from that. Another version you guys may want to check out if you like that is Michael Vincent's version called The Signed Card Strikes Back. There are actually a lot of versions out there, but those are the ones I really liked. And this version by David Regal is very commercial. It's super easy to perform. I think that a lot of you will like it a lot. Moving along to our last notable mention for card effects of 2019, and this goes to Edo Huang and his effect called Fly Trap. You can find that on his download called Just a Few More Things to Share. and that was put out on his Gumroad website, and I think it was $20, and that's one of the effects you're going to learn there. And this is a sandwich effect. It's a very beautiful visual sandwich effect. Now this is the one effect that I'm reviewing here that's going to take a lot of practice because it's very knacky, but is a wonderful effect, and it's a lot of fun to practice. In fact, let me show you guys what it looks like. All right, let's take a look at my top 5 picks for the best card effects of 2019. Now, keep in mind that these are subjective, as this is based on material that I've picked up over the past year and the reactions I've gotten from my own spectators, so you may not agree with my choices here. These are arranged in order of worst to best, as always, but I will tell you that I would recommend all of these pieces to you. I think they're all top-notch effects. So without further ado, number 5 on my list is called Reverse Mind Reading by Drew Backenstoss. Now this card effect can be found in his book, The Architect of the Mind, which you can pick up directly from him for $100. And I think there's like 18 routines in the book. It's definitely worth it. This effect alone is worth the price of the book. Let me tell you a little bit about it. So basically you take out a deck of cards, you explain to the person that you're gonna try something called reverse mind reading. They're not gonna know what that means. You have them cut off a group of cards. As you turn around, you have them count those cards and then put them in their pocket. You then take half the deck and you spread it face up, and you tell them you want them to memorize the card that is at the number they're merely thinking of. You count the cards with them as they memorize that card at their number. Next, you tell them, I won't touch the cards anymore. I want you to shuffle these face-up cards into the rest that are face down. They do. They shuffle them up, they cut them a couple of times. You have them cut the deck in half, and then you simply, by feel alone over the packet, you eliminate half of the packet. You have them deal all the cards, all the ones that are face down, have them deal them face up, and they confirm that their card is not among that half. You have them again split the deck in half, and you go through the process again. Finally, when you're down to just like 2 cards, you explain to the spectator that you're picking up that their card's a black card, that it's a club. They're like, yeah, and then you're like, it's definitely not this one, and they turn it over, it's not. You're down to 1 final card. You reveal the final card, you tell them, I think it's a 2 of clubs, and they're like, yeah, that's right. And then you tell them, you know what? You know why I call this reverse mind reading it wasn't because I was reading your mind, it's because I was implanting a thought in your mind, you see, because your card is not even in the deck. They turn over that last card and it's not there. You tell them, I was actually trying to plant into your mind the idea that I wanted you to cut off 15 cards, which of course that's where the 2 of clubs is. So you tell them, reach into your pocket. They reach into their pocket and they look and see the card that they cut at, that's the 2 of clubs. They can count out the cards again if they want to, but they already have, and they know that they have 15 cards. Now, this is a blockbuster card effect. Let me tell you guys, I've gotten huge reactions from this. And it is a little bit procedure heavy in that you have to have somebody count some cards, cut off some cards and count them. I'm not really a big fan of procedure heavy effects, but the end justifies it, because not only are you revealing the card, but it's like a moment of deja vu, because the card that they saw among the pack is no longer there. It's in their pocket. So how did they ever see it? And not only that, you know exactly how many cards they cut off. It really messes with their brain. It is an amazing card trick. Now in the book, you're gonna learn 3 different versions. The main version, which I like the most, uses a simple gaffed card, which you probably already have. Although for those people that are purists, you will be happy to know that there is a completely ungaffed impromptu version that you can do with just a borrowed deck. So it's a win-win scenario. I really like the effect a lot, and I definitely would recommend it to you guys. In fact, I would recommend the whole book to you. There is no sleight of hand involved with the effect whatsoever. It is almost totally self-working, and it really, you can just focus on your presentation. It is an excellent card effect. And that is number 5 on my list. Moving along to number 4, we have an effect called Red Medicine. and this was put out by Mark Calabrese. You can pick this up from Penguin Magic for $10. Now the premise is extremely simple and easy to understand. A deck of cards is in play. It could be their deck of cards. You can have them shuffle it up as much as they want. You ask them to name any card. You tell them that you want them to take the deck, put it behind their back, or put it under the table. You want them to reverse one card in the middle and then give it a cut and bring it out. They do that. You go through the cards and they show them the one card that's backwards is the card they mentioned, the card they're thinking of. It is extremely simple to perform. There's very, very minimal sleight of hand. You're gonna get really big reactions from it. I've gotten really big reactions from this, and this was kind of like a impromptu effect to do in the middle when you're just doing a set of cards and you just want to throw something else in there. This is an excellent effect to throw in there. It really messes with people's brains. I really liked it a lot. On there, Mark Calabrese is actually going to teach you 3 versions of this. I actually like the 3rd version the best. There's no gaffes involved, there's no gimmicks, there's very minimal sleight of hand, if you even want to call it sleight of hand, because I'm going to tell you it is pretty much no sleight of hand at all. It's so easy to perform and you're going to get really big reactions from this. So I definitely would recommend it to you guys, and that's number 4 on my list.
If you don't mind, name any card you want.
4 of spades.
Want to change your mind? Because you can say anything else.
I love it.
Okay, 4 of spades. So here's what I want you to do. Zule, you're gonna take the cards, okay, and you're gonna go under the table with these cards. You're not gonna go under the table, just the cards, okay? It's gonna be a little weird. But you're gonna go under the table so you can't see what you're doing, okay? So take those cards under the table. Now I want you to follow my directions, very important. I want you to reach into the deck somewhere in the middle, and pull a card out.
1 card.
Only 1, yeah, don't be greedy. You got 1 out?
Yeah.
Turn that card face up now. Don't look at it. Turn it face up. Now stick it somewhere back in the middle. I love this plot so much that I actually given you 3 methods that allows the spectator to take any card that they want from behind their back, reverse it, and it'll be the card that they named. Okay, I'm gonna show you, look, I'm gonna show you 1 card. Just 1 card, face down, right? Out of all the cards. Are you happy with that? What was the card that you said?
4 of spades.
4 of spades. Out of all the 52 positions, you chose 1 card, Zule. 4 of spades.
Fire. Fire.
Moving along to number 3, we have Every Which Way by Carlos Vaquera, and this was put out in his new book, The Illusioneer, that was just published this last year. Now I have to admit to you guys that I actually saw Carlos Vaquera perform this way before this book was published, and I actually reverse engineered it myself based on that performance because I liked it so much. And of course I picked up his book as soon as it came out in English because he did put out a version of the book in French. So I did pick up the book, and I'll tell you guys that it didn't disappoint. I was very pleasantly surprised that my reverse engineering of the effect was pretty much spot on overall. There was a couple of little tips there that I didn't know, but after getting the book, it was definitely worth it. I've been performing this for a long time, and I get really strong reactions. This is like one of those effects I always go to because it's an in the hands triumph effect from a shuffle deck in use. It's an excellent effect. You don't need a table for it, so it's perfect for walk around, and it gets really big reactions. There's some really nice moments, some nice convincers in there, some moments where you're showing face up into face down, and I think that that's what really makes the effect so strong, because any type of triumph effect, it's only as strong as the conviction that you really are shuffling face up into face down. If the spectators don't believe that, then the effect is gonna fail overall. In fact, let me show you guys what the effect looks like in my own hands. Before I do that, I just wanna tell you that the book is $40 from your favorite magic dealer, and you definitely should pick it up. So here's what the effect looks like. Here's a quick demo for Every Which Way by Carlos Vaquera. And this was put out, I think the 4th effect in his book, The Illusioneer. Just want to show you guys what it looks like. What I really like is that it's from a shuffle deck in use and that this is all totally in the hands. Spectators really like these triumph-like effects. So card is selected. This will be our card for argument's sake. Okay, the card is returned to the center of the pack. You can show that to your spectators. You push it in and immediately fan the cards, showing the lost condition of the card. Doesn't that sound like a card trick to you? You immediately can shuffle the pack, and what you tell the spectators is you say, look, we're going to actually divide the pack in half. We're going to turn half of it face up and the other half, of course, face down. So you could see here we got face up and we got face down, okay? Now this is really simple. What we're going to do is that we are going to shuffle face down into face up, therefore creating a real disaster. This is commonly known as a mess. So we shuffle face down into face up, and as you may imagine, you can show that these are all face down. You could turn it over and show that these on this side are all face up. We turn it over again, face down, turn it over again, and these are all face up. So here, what I really like is that when you go to push in the two halves like this is the best selling point, is that you can show very cleanly the two halves, the face up going into the face down. And just push those in together. So you explain to the spectator that now what we've got here is we've got just a total mess here. Meaning we've got some that are face up, we've got some that are face down, face up, face down. Got a little bit of everything. We've even got some that are face to face. So you ask them what their card was. I don't even remember what it was, but you ask them what their card was, you make a magical gesture and you spread, and now all of the cards have righted themselves. All of them except their selection. Oh yeah, the 5 of spades, that was their selection. And that's the effect. Moving on, the number 2 best effect from 2019 comes from the book Second Thoughts by Ramon Rioboo, and that effect was called Touch and Telepathy. There's actually 2 effects that are very similar in the book, and I'm going to just list them both as the number 2 effect because they're pretty much the same effect. The difference is whether or not you can use a memorized deck to do the effect. Now, the effect is based on the black hole principle. This was a principle that was really discovered by Steve Dushek in the 1970s. And here, Ramon Rioboo explores that principle and he gives you a couple of routines. Now, the version of the effect that I really like is called the Touch and Telepathy, or Telepathy and Touch. I think it was called Touch and Telepathy, yeah. And in that effect, you take out a deck of cards, you can shuffle them in your hands. It's like you're just doing a fall shuffle because you're using a memorized deck. And what you do is that you hand them to the spectator, you tell them to take any card out of the deck, put it in their pocket, give the deck a couple of cuts, and then give it to you behind your back. Now, behind your back, by feel alone, you tell them that you're going to hone the sense of your feeling. You tell them that you're going to pull out a card and just see how you're doing. You pull out a card, but before you bring it out front, you tell them, I think this is a black card. So you bring it out front, it's a black card. Again, you repeat it and you say, okay, I think that this is this next card is going to be a diamond. You pull it out, it's a diamond, right? And then you continue along this way of seemingly being able to sense what the card is until you've done it about 4 or 5 times. And then you tell them, let's see if I can do it with the card in your pocket. Put your hand in your pocket and touch it. They do that. And then you tell them to just mentally send you that information. You can tell exactly the card that is in their pocket. Now, this is a really strong effect. I've gotten really strong reactions from this. Now, the other effect that is similar to this that he teaches in the book is actually called I Always Miss So I Never Miss. And that effect relies on a setup in the deck, and it's a very streamlined version, which is very, very simple to perform. So for those people that don't have a memorized deck under their belt, or they don't want to put in the time to learn it, then I would recommend you check out this effect called I Always Miss So I Never Miss. And it's pretty much the same effect where a deck of cards is spread, you turn around, they take out any card they want, they give the deck a couple of cuts, then they give it to you behind your back. And what you basically do is you take out a card and you tell them, I always miss, so I never miss. So the card you take out, if it's red, then you tell them, oh, this is a red card, so the card you took out is a black card. Next, you take out another card and you say, oh, this is, it's a club, so that means you're thinking of a spade. And then the next card you take out, it's like a king. So you say, oh, this is a court card. So you must be thinking of a number card. And then finally you take out one more card and you say, oh, this is an even card. So you must have an odd card. And all of those statements are true. Then finally you take out the other cards that are missing from that. Like for instance, if it was just like the odd spades, then you would take out, like if they're thinking of like, if they have in their pocket like the 9 of spades, then you would take out like the ace, 3, 5, and 7 of spades, for example. And that way you could tell them, you know, the card in your pocket's the 9 of spades. So it's a very baffling trick to the spectator because everything is done behind your back. So I really liked the effect, definitely the touch and telepathy, because it looks like it's from a totally random deck. It looks like there's no way you could ever know the card that they merely just pulled out of the deck and put in their pocket. I will tell you guys that if you are interested in learning that, I would highly recommend you do like what I did here, which is I made like a flow chart based on my memorized deck to help me learn the effect to practice, because it's not a routine that you're going to learn really quickly. It's going to take quite a bit of practice to learn that effect. So if you don't really want to put in the time to learn it, you can check out the more streamlined version. I always miss, so I never miss. It's still really strong. I did get some good reactions with that, but since I learned the memorized deck version, that's all I've been using. And so finally, moving on to the number 1 card effect of 2019, I'm going to tell you guys that part of the influence of this choice has to do with Simon Aronson just passing away this year. I'm going to tell you guys my choice for the number 1 card effect of 2019 is going to go to Joshua J. and his effect Total Recall, which he published in Triptych, which was part of a limited edition retreat pack that was put out. You know, now I don't think you can get it anymore, but it was put out by Vanishing Ink and it was sold by various different magic dealers. Now the effect itself, Total Recall, it also was put out under the name of multitasking. He has lectured on it extensively over the past, you know, probably 2 years or so. And if you are interested to learn this effect, you can just pick up his Penguin Live 2 lecture, which you can also find it there, but it's not called Total Recall, it's called multitasking. Now, what is the effect? This is an effect that's for parlor or for more of a larger group of people. And this is Simon Aronson's shuffleboard, but in an impromptu way. So Simon Aronson's shuffleboard is an effect that is very ingenious and relies on a heavily stacked deck, a heavy setup. There are countless versions of it that exist out there. And here Joshua J has come up with an impromptu version where you literally set it up right in front of the audience as you're giving one of the audience members some cards to shuffle. You basically divide the deck up into 4 parts, giving them out to 4 different spectators. You let them shuffle it up as much as they want. And then when you take them back, you have them, you know, they either turn over your pack or they turn over their pack, and you shuffle them together, and you repeat that process with the other 3 spectators until you have a deck of cards that is shuffled face up into face down. And then at that moment, you immediately can make these predictions that you immediately know that there are so many cards that are face down, that you know what cards are red, how many are black, how many are 1 suit, all the way down to being able to predict like the 2 hearts are a king and a 7, for instance. So you can make those predictions right out in the open immediately, and you can have one audience member go through the deck and take those out. Now the effect is very, very strong, and it is excellent for when you're performing for a group of people. I've actually gotten some strong reactions from this, and definitely one of those that you want to go to when somebody just hands you a deck of cards and says, hey, show us something. You have a group of people with you. You've got at least 4 people with you, and you want to show them something that's going to totally blow their minds. This is it. There's no difficult sleight of hand. In fact, what you need to do is very simple in nature. It's not difficult at all. You will learn this very quickly. There's a small amount of practice involved just so that way you're comfortable with performing it and the pattern, but other than that, I would say that really you're going to learn it overall really quickly. And the best part, again, is that this is from a shuffled deck in use. Of course, part of my reason for putting this in the #1 spot was because Simon Aronson just passed away this year. But nevertheless, I'll tell you guys, this is an excellent effect. And if I've piqued your interest with it, you should pick up the Joshua Jay's Penguin Live 2 lecture. So those are my picks for the top 5 best card effects of 2019. If you guys have any questions or comments, please just leave them below. I hope that I have piqued your interest, and I hope that I've given you guys something to check out. Again, thanks so much for checking out my reviews, and I'll see you on the next review.